European Union foreign ministers have been meeting in Luxembourg to discuss ways to expand their support for Ukraine. They approved traditional weapons for Kyiv, but the bloc still remains divided on the sanctions that would hurt Moscow the most, a boycott of Russian oil and gas.
Time is of the essence. That was the mood at the EU Foreign Ministers Summit. Russia is thought to be planning a military offensive in Ukraine's east. The EU's response? A pledge of more arms deliveries worth an additional 500 million euros.
Ukraine needs more military supplies, especially heavy weapons. Now is not the time for excuses. Now is the time for creative solutions.
That includes German weapons. After initial doubts about sending arms to Ukraine, talks are underway about how to possibly provide Kyiv with equipment such as Leopard tanks. Berlin has already sent Patriot missiles to Slovakia, which has agreed in turn to provide some of its surface-to-air missiles and other hardware to Ukraine. There was also EU-wide agreement that the bloc will support efforts to investigate possible war crimes.
How to make Russia accountable for the gross violations of international law. We will provide assistance.
Assistance to the tune of 1 million euros from Germany alone. Amid so much agreement, the EU foreign ministers, however, failed to agree on a blanket embargo on buying Russian oil.
For more on this, we're now joined by DW's chief political correspondent, Melinda Crane. Melinda, why is Germany still so reluctant to support an immediate oil and/or gas embargo?
In a word, jobs. Germany's industrial economy is hungry for energy, and much of it comes from Russian fossil fuels. A ban on oil and gas could take several percentage points off of Germany's GDP and force closure of firms that have never shut down before. And of course, that could have implications for social stability here in Germany, but also in other European countries, because this country's economy is a driver of European growth. But that said, Berlin is showing more flexibility on a possible oil embargo than on gas. Germany's economy minister has been working around the clock to wean Germany off of Russian fossil fuels, and he thinks that will be largely accomplished in the case of coal and oil by the end of this year. It's also easier to find other suppliers for oil. So I think there, when the EU foreign policy chief says that everything is on the table, and that includes oil and gas, he's certainly speaking for Germany as well.
So, Melinda, what would need to happen for Germany to accept a serious hit to the economy and change their stance about Russian gas?
Well, we have seen Germany change its position on the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia and on weapons deliveries in response to rising pressure. For example, on the weapons deliveries, those images coming out of Bucha showing what looked like war crimes to have been committed. So I think certainly Germany is under pressure, and we are seeing the potential for some momentum.
There's also been talk about a split in the cabinet over heavy weapons deliveries for Ukraine. What are the different viewpoints there?
Well, as I mentioned, Scholz and his government have been criticized for not being significantly more proactive. 3 days after the war began, he declared that Germany had entered a new era and broke with a long-standing taboo to send defensive weapons to Ukraine. But in recent weeks, we've seen stalling and equivocation when it comes to Kiev's repeated calls for heavier weapons. The chancellor repeatedly dodging questions on the topic, even as recently as this weekend, and that despite the fact that there are dozens of tanks, for example, sitting around unused, needing maintenance on the site of the Rheinmetall company, which would in fact like to send them to Ukraine. That's the kind of creative solution that the foreign minister means when she demands creativity and thinking out of the box, as she did yesterday in the statement we heard earlier. We've heard similar messaging from her economics ministry colleague Robert Habeck. So clearly the chancellor's junior coalition partner is growing restive, and so are many German citizens. Nearly half say the government is doing too little.
Melinda Crane there, thank you very much.